Skate 3 is one of those games that could probably be considered a classic. I feel like this was a game that everyone could appreciate and have fun with, even if you never picked up a skateboard in your life. And even if you've never played it before, there's a good chance you've probably seen it while scrolling through YouTube or especially TikTok recently. It's been a minute since I played though, so I decided to load it back up and find out why it was so loved back then, how well it actually aged, and why so many people are playing it 14 years after release. When you first load up Skate 3, you're greeted with a little cutscene that sets up the tone for the rest of the game. After that, you gotta cook up a name for your brand new skateboard team, and then you can create your first character. Now at first you can't really drip him out that much because 99% of the cool stuff is locked, but later on, once you unlock stuff, you can finally get the dream fit you've been grinding for. After you got your character made, you soon meet the one and only Coach Frank. Coach Frank will walk you through the tutorial and put you through all the basic moves and all that. All you really need to know is that to do the tricks, you have to flick the joystick in a certain motion, but after you finish, he sends you straight into the real world where you can do anything you imagine. From this point, you got three options. You can either play career mode, which is the campaign of this game. You got free skate, which lets you do absolutely anything you want within the entire map. And then lastly, you got multiplayer mode, which lets you skate with other people, doing all kinds of different modes or matches or whatever, but I'll get into that in a bit. So starting out with career mode, this was the first thing that I decided to do. The premise of the campaign is that you just created your very own skateboard brand, and the main objective is to sell 1 million skateboards. Now to sell these skateboards, you need to complete missions or challenges, which are divided into different types. Starting out, some categories revolve around pro skaters. With these, you generally compete against them in either a contest, a race, which is low-key my favorite because it's like Mario Kart with skateboards, playing a game of skate, which is like horse if you ever play basketball, and then you also got some where you're just following the pro skaters around trying to keep up with them without getting too far away. Next up, we got the Hall of Meat challenges, which are probably the most iconic. The goal is actually to see how blasted you can get by falling off and breaking as many bones as you can, and these are based off an actual thing, which are basically like skate compilations. There's also several categories, which are basically different variations of completing different tricks. The structure for this game's career mode is very interesting because you actually choose whatever category or mission you want with no order that you have to complete them in. The further you go down the list in each category, the harder the challenges tend to get, but I mean, you could choose however you want, which gives you a lot of freedom to play the way you want while still making progress. They also throw in cutscenes on the missions, but it's not like the order matters too much or anything. As you sell the boards, you hit milestones, and with each one, it lets you add new characters to your team, and then it also lets you unlock more customization for your character. Eventually, after playing for a while, I finally beat the main objective of selling 1 million skateboards and unlocked all the main customization, but even then, I felt like I barely scratched the surface, and I still had the urge to go in and 100% all the missions. Difficulty is a huge thing in this game, and it's definitely a reason why this game has so much replayability. You can choose between easy, normal, and hardcore, which all give you access to different kinds of tricks that you can do. What's weird is that some of these missions are like actually Coco Melon level easy. I could low-key probably hire a fucking monkey to complete these with no issue. Once you finally get it down though, it's like one of the best feelings in the world when you finally complete it, and it makes all the pain and rage worth it. On top of that, if completing all the missions alone isn't enough for you, or even completing them on hardcore, you could also try something called killing the levels, which basically means you just completed them perfectly without any flaw. I mean, with some of these challenges, I had trouble doing on easy mode, so I mean, you can go from that all the way up until hardcore mode while trying to get the killed status on them, if that's what you really wanted to do. But yeah, I feel like the skill gap on this game is perfect. It's really low entry level to play and have fun on the game, but at the same time, there's so much room for improvement to the point where it takes people literally years to master the game. And if all those missions with the different difficulties still isn't enough, you got DLC maps which you can buy, and it gives you access to new places to skate through with a whole new set of missions, and I think they're only like $5 each. The next main mode that we got is free skate. So while having objectives to complete is nice, sometimes you just want to skate for fun. I mean, it's kind of like real life in a way. There's no real objective. You're just kind of doing it to practice or to have fun, if you know what I mean. Normally this is something that I wouldn't like that much because I'm the kind of person who needs to feel like there's a point in me playing. Like I need to be rewarded for what I'm doing so that way I can progress. But with Skate 3, it just works. The main reason is because the fundamental gameplay is simply just fun. The game doesn't need all these gimmicks, side quests, a battle pass, or even any real objective to be enjoyable to play. A lot of the enjoyment in the game simply just comes from cruising around the city, practicing tricks, and just having fun running around because the basic skating mechanics in this game are just satisfying. It's kind of like how people like to do those late night drives in GTA 5 at night with no purpose, just catching a vibe. And it's the same way in Skate 3. The map itself has so much variety. I mean, it feels like a GTA aka battle royale map almost. So the map is divided into 3 main parts. The industrial district is at the bottom of the map, where it kind of looks like a more rundown kind of area. We got a lot of old buildings, factory looking places, and I'd say the coolest, most iconic part of this area is probably the quarry. It's like a bunch of rocks and stuff, and it's probably one of the most middle of the nowhere places in the map, but at the same time it's one of the most like fun and iconic places to skate. Next up, you got the downtown district, and this is like the heart of the map. It takes place in the city, and it's got like a bunch of plazas and more spots that are like connected together. You also got a lot of NPCs just walking around, which makes it feel less lonely in the map, and you kind of have to navigate them while skating. What the fuck? And then lastly, you got the university district, which seems to be a lot of people's favorite. The whole place feels like a pretty nice area, and I low-key feel like I should be skating there in some places. It's got a lot of open areas with a lot of space, and the greatest fan favorite place in the entire map has gotta be the super ultra mega park. Now this place is like a big ass skate park with mainly ramps and stuff where you can just get some crazy speed in there and all that. It's also one of those places where it kind of feels like it's a course that you had to go through, but there's different ways you can get through it. While yeah, there's a lot of skate parks in the map, the majority of the map are just random cool places. Every single place feels like it was built to be skated in. Like you can go in the middle of nowhere and find some crazy stuff. It's also nice because the game gives you a menu where you can teleport instantly between spots, but you're also not limited to just those spots. You can skate from one spot to another all the way across the map if you really wanted to. On top of the map itself, the music in this game adds a whole other layer to the atmosphere and environment. They got all kinds of bangers from different genres, and they make me feel like I'm living inside of a skating multiverse, and I even feel like the main character sometimes. The NPCs in this game are funny too, but they be getting on my fucking nerves. If you keep messing with them after a while, they'll eventually just start throwing hands at you, or they'll just tase you. I honestly wish there was more NPCs in the map because like it does feel a bit lonely, but I'm guessing it was just a hardware limitation at the time. If you like the free skate mode but you wish there was a little bit more to it, they literally got their own creative mode. Not only does it let you build your own skate parks from scratch, but you can also share them to the public. You can even place down your own props and stuff in the regular map, so it gives you basically infinite options to build your own spots and even courses if you wanted to. On top of that, they also got their own replay mode, which is pretty cool if you want to record your own clips and share them. These features definitely contribute to the community aspect of the game and keeps people sticking around. But yeah, the free skate mode just gives you a whole bunch of tools and ways that you can practice your skating skills. Speaking of that, there's also a huge skill gap for just the player skill in general, which is low-key probably the #1 reason why this game has almost perfect replayability. When I first loaded up the game, I initially thought that the main point was just to get good enough to complete the game's main challenges and objectives, but I was completely wrong. I realized that one of the biggest aspects of this game is simply just to improve your skill. And while yeah, that is cool in itself and it gives you something to improve on, there's an even greater use for your skills in online mode. Now online mode was the last thing I experienced, and even a long time ago, I don't think I ever really played that much of it. When I loaded in though, it was not what I was expecting at all, because I did not expect to see this many people playing in online mode 14 years after the game launch. So in online mode, you had the option to choose between most of the career categories I listed earlier, but the most popular one that I found people played online was called Spot Battle. Spot Battle is where you go against another team and see who can get the most points in a certain amount of time. Now it's pretty simple, but holy shit, I did not realize that people would be this cracked at the game because they were cooking the fuck out of me. Everyone in these lobbies had a wild looking modded skin, which I didn't even know was possible until now, because like how do you even get that on a next gen console? I even asked this one dude how to get a skin, and I didn't realize that apparently there's a whole marketplace of people who trade modded skins for actual money. Now all of this opened up my eye to how seriously people take this game, and it's honestly really cool to me that there's an active hardcore community to this day. After doing some research, I found out that there was an actual competitive scene even, and bro, if Skate 4 doesn't bring some sort of competitive aspect to the next game, that would be the biggest wasted opportunity. Imagine what a competitive scene for a new skate game would look like in a modern day on a skating game. I mean, seeing all these people made me low-key even want to start practicing and getting my skate skills up, because I mean, I'm trying to play with all these people who are playing online and not be straight dookie at it. So back to the main question from the very beginning, why is there so many people who still play this game 14 years later? Well, there's actually been a pretty huge resurgence of players within the past couple years, and a lot of it 100% has to do with TikTok. Part of what reminded me of this game is simply just seeing it on there, and I think a lot of other people had a similar experience. I mean, there's a lot about this game that's appealing to someone who's just scrolling through and also likes games in general. The biggest thing that stands out though has got to be the aesthetic. First of all, I feel like skateboarding itself has always been known as an aesthetic thing. That's why you got a whole group of people called posers who look or act like they skate but don't skate. Even with a lot of fashion and current trends these days, it seems like a lot of it low-key comes from the skating community, or at least it seems seems like they're usually always on top of it first. I mean, the guy who started the whole opium aesthetic you see nowadays was rooted in skating. On top of that, the game itself is also a bit dated and looks cool, but you can tell it was made in like the late 2000s or like the early 2010s, which is also its own big aesthetic these days. I mean, half of the memes you see right now are made to look like they were made 12 years ago, so it's obviously a weird time period that people are interested aesthetically, because people also like the whole vintage game aesthetic, like Resident Evil, for example. So all that together is why I think Skate 3 is like the ultimate aesthetic game, and that in itself is a big reason why I think people were attracted to the game and why it still catches people's attention years later. It's not all about aesthetics though, because once you load up the game, you realize that it actually is genuinely a good game, and it's aged amazingly well. Don't get me wrong, there's tons of good games that are old, but not all of them are able to consistently hold up a player base like Skate 3 has been able to all these years later. Lastly, I think a huge part of why so many people play this game nowadays is because there is no other skate game that has been able to compete with this series. Back then, its only competitor was really the Tony Hawk series. The only difference is that the Skate series has simply just aged better, regardless of there being new Tony Hawk games that came out after, because a lot of people say they suck at this. There's even been several other skating games that have come out recently, which are kind of known to be like skate alternatives, but in my opinion, I don't think they've ever even been able to come close to offering the amount of stuff that Skate 3 has to offer. So really, if you're just looking to play a skating game, the best choice within the past 14 years leads you to Skate 3, and so many people play it to this day because there's no other skating game like that. With Skate 4 finally releasing soon, hopefully, I think they have huge potential to improve and modernize an already amazing series. I'd love to see them improve on the multiplayer and competitive aspects personally. But yeah, let me know what y'all think down in the comments. If y'all enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like and subscribe and join the Discord down in the comments. And yeah, peace.